Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So this one's a little bit different to my normal structure because I have actually done, in December I did a kind of broad overview of key areas of your life for 2023, but I wanted to drill into a little bit more detail for a couple of reasons. Well, probably for three reasons. Firstly, I was inspired by one of my favourite readers on TarotTube, Aphrodite. He just put out a 2023 month by month reading for different astrological signs. Now I'm not doing the exact same thing. I'm doing a pick a card. I would have been a bit disrespectful to do exactly the same thing, and I really admire his work. So shout out to him because I think he's brilliant for making me think, like it would be good to get into a little bit more of a month by month type of way of looking at things. Secondly, because I just received this gorgeous deck that you can see these three cards from, which are, what I did was I shuffled and asked Spirit for the first three major arcana to be energies to help you choose which pile to choose for your reading. So this beautiful deck, which is called Lilith and the Machine, is done by an Australian deck creator, Angela Rossler. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She's really lovely. She decided to do a deck because she couldn't find one that was exactly perfect for her, and as it happens, what she's created here, I could say the same thing, it's exactly perfect for me. I love this deck. I knew I was going to from seeing the pictures for it on Etsy, and the details are in my description box below as usual for anybody who's keen on the various decks that I use if you want to get your own copy. It's just gorgeous. It's sort of mysterious and strange and very portrait heavy, so very human heavy, people heavy, which I kind of like. I think will be particularly powerful for the sort of more psychologically or group or people oriented readings. So you'll see a lot of it on my channel, but I couldn't wait to use it, so I thought let's use it for this reading. And these cards, by the way, will get shuffled back in, so may or may not come up in the reading. So they really are just to help you choose which deck is calling to you. And the third reason I wanted to do it is that anybody who has had a private reading from me or has gone to my Etsy store will know that through December and now pretty much to the end of January, there will be a reading available, which is a 2023 reading. And it has a number of parts to it because it's an hour-long reading. But one of those parts is going month by month with a couple of cards for each month and then looking at it quarter by quarter. So I wanted to take that part of that reading and put it into a pick a card and then add to it quarter by quarter with some oracles for a few other messages from Spirit. So I thought it was a way for people who either don't want a private reading or who haven't been able to get one for whatever reason, or who miss out because that particular Etsy listing will only be around till around about the end of January. I'm actually going to be taking a week off near the end of January because I've got some personal business I have to do. So I'd really say it's probably only available for, another couple of weeks from when I'm filming this. And so maybe even only a week from when you see this, depending on when it's published. But it's to allow for that for anybody who missed out on that or who wants to look at a sort of broader collective energy on top of what they had as a personal reading. And the other thing, going right back to Aphrodite, is that what I liked about what he said was that he'd done this sort of reading, the year before, and that it sort of allowed for people to sort of come back a number of times in the year if they wanted to check in and see, did that energy work? Have I made the best use of it? What's coming next? And with a pick a card, you may well say, well, I'm drawn to the Magician now, but, if you came back 6 months later, you might be drawn to the Hierophant, for instance. So it allows for the shifts and changes that tarot was always just meant to give you a sense of the energies that are prevailing at the moment, so you make choice. So there's a lot of reasons I just thought this would be really interesting to do. So with no further ado, let's get into the reading. So as always, I'll put down the numbers for pile 1, 2, and 3. So as I said, I asked Spirit to give me a sense of an image and energy to help you choose the right pile or piles. By all means, look at more than one. If you feel drawn to more than one, it might be that, the first half of the year in this is really right for you in the second half in another. So you do you. But the cards that Spirit brought out for this is, first of all, card number 1 in the Major Arcana, the Magician. Then 18, the Star, and then 5, the Hierophant. So the numbers might draw you of the cards as well as the numbers of the reading. Whatever draws to you, and as I say, whatever, you can go to more than one reading. The timestamps, as always, are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile number 1. So how I do this is that I do it quarter by quarter, and I go January, February, March, April, May, June, and so forth. So we're going to do January, February, March with the tarot, looking at 2 cards for each month. Then I'm going to use some oracle cards to get some other information about that quarter, and then we'll go through each quarter one by one, after which we'll finish off with an oracle card which has a blessing. So that's the relatively simple for me structure that we're going to use for this particular pick a card reading. So January, February, March for pole number 1. January, 7 of Swords and 2 of Swords. February, the Sun, lovely, and the Empress reversed. And March, the Queen of Wands and the 3 of Swords. Okay. So the first thing that strikes me about this is there's quite a lot of Swords energy in this first quarter of 2023 for you. Now that doesn't necessarily, I mean, Swords can sometimes be tricky because it is the sort of mental area, and we can catastrophize and we can overthink and we can do all those sort of things. But it's also the area of mental energy and inspiration and so forth. So I do feel, looking at these, the first thing that I feel is that there is some potential sacrifice that you may be called to make in this first quarter, or separation or something like that, to allow a new life path and a new sense of creative energy to come in. Now, the reason I'm saying that is that January looks to me like you're negotiating and making decisions about something. So I feel that those who've come to this reading, I feel like there's something that's happened in the latter part of 2022 where you've reached a point of deciding a new direction. It's almost a philosophic direction or a new approach to something. It could be something scientific, academic, legal, something like that. There could be sort of making some decisions now. But it looks like you see a negotiation point that's necessary. It also looks like you're not entirely sure of how much you can trust the information that's around you. So I don't think you have to rush into a decision, but I think what this is foreshadowing for you is that in February you will have a very strong sense about what you want to create, how you want to move forward, but you will know that it's a bit of a long road, and the harvest is not, it's really just beginning. The harvest is not immediately available. And the key thing is to understand that and not to sort of get dissuaded by that, because you are moving towards, with the Sun and the Queen of Wands, in February, March, you're definitely moving towards, you know, a greater sense of self-actualization, a greater sense of following your life path, coming into your power, quite frankly. But it looks to me as though there are some either mental or potentially relationship-based stresses that are associated with this. And I think you know in January that that's coming. And by February, there could be a figure around you, a person around you who was nurturing but is not so nurturing. I mean, for some of you, this could literally be you deciding to take a step out from a workplace or move out of home or something like that. So it's not necessarily bad energy, but an energy where for you to come into your own, you actually have to move away from a more nurturing or caring energy that was around you. But for others, there may even be a clash with someone who's meant to be a nurturer, a teacher or something like that, who's maybe jealous of the emerging you, or who, you know, a teacher that is sort of seeing the student potentially going to eclipse them, that kind of energy. And you've known there's something about the environment, about the belief structure, something that is, there is a cost, because it's interesting. We have the Empress reversed and we have the 3 of Swords. I feel like you are separating out from something in this first quarter. And I think it's necessary to do it, for you to come into your power as the Queen of Wands, for you to follow your life path as the Sun. It feels like growing pains. Now, that doesn't mean, you could be any age, at any stage in your life, but it feels as though you have a sense of this without fully knowing the full kind of cost or the full sort of bargaining that needs to be done around this. You have a sense that there is something coming through in this first quarter that has a lot going for it. This is not bad, but there's like separating out from those who potentially were the nurturers or the people who gave you abundance before. So it could be anything, as I say, like leaving a job, moving out of home, could be leaving a relationship. This doesn't feel so much like a relationship in terms of a romantic relationship. It feels more like nurturing or guiding figures. And depending upon who's come to this reading, it's either that you feel a pain in separating out, but you know that you have to, or you may cause some pain by separating out, but again, you know you have to. So there's very much this sense in the first quarter of 2023 for pile 1 that you are stepping out into your own life path in some way and separating from those that maybe were nurturing for you once or supportive for you once, but are not able to travel with you to that degree in some way. So let's have a look at the alchemical energy, because that's a very interesting energy to sort of kick off your reading with. The alchemical energy that's operating in this first quarter for you. Summer. Now that's really interesting. I feel like I should put that there with the Empress reverse and the Sun. Because summer is the harvest. Now this is interesting because we have the Empress reverse. I don't feel necessarily, as I say, that this is a bad or difficult person. I mean, sometimes the Empress reverse can be a nurturer who is not nurturing, or a maternal figure who's not maternal. That could be the case, but with the Sun and the Queen of Wands there, I feel like in any case you're arising out of it, but I think it's more likely to be separation out from that. There is something, pile 1, which has done its time, and you need to let it bring in the harvest and then separate out from that to move into something new. And you know, with the sun, with the summer comes the sun, so there's definitely a sort of sense about the blooming new sort of vibrant energy that's coming through, but it is because something else is separating out. And that's kind of alchemically, it's time to do that so that you can move into something more for yourself. But it's like there's a negotiation or something like that associated with it. Or there's something that happens in January that is separate to this. But I feel like even if it's separate, it precipitates some of this. I just feel many of you could be graduating, moving out of home, you know, moving up the ladder, leaving a workplace, something like that. And it's a good energy and it is a harvest, but it does require some negotiation and it does require some separation. So let's see the archetype that you could be manifesting in this first 3 months of 2023. The ring. Okay. All right. So the irony about this, as I say, because it feels like separation, is it may be, in fact, to go towards a relationship. Because the ring is often that. It's often the sort of sense of commitment to the other, commitment to a relationship. But a ring is also like a vow or a connection, and there could be something that you're negotiating, a new business arrangement, something like that. But there's something that you're leaving as a result of it. Now, this would be classic if you were leaving home, for instance, from being with your family to, you know, move in with a, you know, romantic partner, or to make a commitment to a job and so forth. So for some of you, you might do something like get married or, as I say, move in or something like that, but they're separating from something else as a result of that, and it is the right thing to do. So let's have a look also with the Cute and Creepy Tarot as a kind of wild card energy for this, and then we will get an astrology energy, astrology or numerology. So a wild card energy around this first 3 months for you, pile 1, is spring. So you've got spring and summer. Okay, so there's a process. Within this 3 months, you're going through a process. I feel like spring is more in this sort of like trying to figure out what and get more information to know what is happening, maybe with a commitment that you make or a vow you make or a connection that you make that you know is going to sort of come to some sort of a harvest. And so this talks about time or season of growth and development. It harvests really quickly. By about February, you really have the new direction and you're letting something go. But as I say, there is a little bit of pain or a little bit, either you cause a bit of pain or there's a little bit of pain that you feel as you move into the Queen of Wands energy, which is also a perfect summer energy. So let's get an astrology or a numerology piece of the puzzle as well. Full moon. Oh, this is all about harvest. The full moon is about manifestation, harvest, release. Okay, so I feel, pile 1, that this is saying there's something probably that you've been doing in the latter parts of 2022, and it is going to come to fruition. It's going to come to harvest, and that is wonderful, and it's going to bring in with it a new commitment, a new period of growth, a new life path, but there is something that you will separate out from so that you can do it. Like a classic, I'm just getting like this. This feels a bit like, you know, somebody who's an actor and they've just finished doing some amazing movie And that's beautiful, and it's finished, and it's come to fruition, and it's about to be sort of launched on the silver screen, and therefore they then have to separate out to go to the next thing, but it's going to be really good for them. So it's that kind of energy. You don't have to be an actor. It's just an example. Yeah, so January through to March, there's a closing off of something that harvests and the beginning of something new. Okay, so let's see how it then develops through April, May, June, the second quarter of 2023. Temperance and the Star. Wow, yeah, it's something wonderful. It is something wonderful. There's some pain, but it's something wonderful. The Two of Wands and Judgment in May. And the Three of Cups, June, and the Hermit. Okay, all right. So as this develops, I'm really feeling for a lot of you. While I do think that there is a possibility for some that this is going into a significant relationship, I think for most this ring is something else. Because particularly as we have over here a sort of sense of almost a little bit of separation out from people, there's separation occurring at the end of each of these quarters for you. The beginning of this quarter, so April, fantastic. You know, you really worked out what you want to do and you've got things in balance. So if there has been any sort of pain in the separation or the change, whatever it is that you've let go of in March, in April, you feel very much, yeah, I'm ready for this. I know what my North Star is. I feel like there's good people around you, all of that sort of thing. Then, so that's March, April. Then in May, you need to make a decision. Actually, you need to make a decision about who to keep in your life. This is like, seems to be an overall pattern. And I don't think, it doesn't feel like there's anything harsh in this, but I just feel like the people who've come to this reading, if you've come to the right one, there's something about you, about your work, about your creativity, whatever it is that you tend to almost, it feels a lot, as I say, like an actor or something, you know, or somebody who, you know, does contract work or consultancy, goes in and does something, brings it to fruition, then goes and does the other thing. So there's always this sort of sense of, you know, excitement and bringing the right people together and the right team together, and then the sort of decisions about which ones can sort of like be moved away from. So when this is really wonderful, there's a real sense of like by April that you're on the right path, but by May you're making a decision about what bits of this or what people around you will move forward with you, and you have to make that decision then. There's almost like there's a critical juncture. If this is sort of the negotiating the end of something, taking your harvest, bringing in something new, separating from the old, and then really having your vision about what you're doing, at this point there's almost a simplification that has to happen. And it could be that someone is not on the same path as you. It could also be that you have two opportunities and you've really got to decide which, and you do have to decide which. With Judgment upright, it's saying there's a decision which if you don't make it in that month, then that opportunity goes off the table. So again, it sort of feels, a lot of this feels like creative or work. So there may be kind of opportunities to branch out, and you've got to decide then whether you're going to do it. And my guess is at the moment on current energies, you may decide not to, that you really want to just sort of like focus on one, because this feels like you really go within. You're not as, by June, you're not really working as much with other people. And there may even have been something coming off this that didn't really work out. Something that didn't come to its full fruition, or something that you wanted to celebrate but you couldn't, because it looks like you go into a form of contemplation at this point. So it could be in this quarter that it's sort of a period of having grand dreams, and you are going to achieve quite a lot. These are good dreams, but there may be something along the way that you have to divest yourself of, something that you can't take with you. And it's more a solitary thing. So if you're used to doing a lot with other people, there's something about this energy that is more solitary. So if we had summer as your alchemy in the first 3 months, what do we have as your alchemy in the second 3 months? So from May through to June. Ah, yeah, oil of vitriol. So there is something that you need to work out, whether it is healing, even if it can be a bit bitter, or whether it's something that you need to sort of move away from, because oil of vitriol does make you confront something. So I think this is going to be May, June. your dream, your idea is good. I think the Spirit wants you to know it's good, but there's going to be a little bit of a bitter, difficult decision. There may be some jealousy or people who are debating with you with that card coming up that you need to make some quick decisions about, and keeping your own counsel and going to within your spiritual pathway may be important in this period of time. Let's see what archetype is operating. The underworld. I feel like I want to put this one over here. I think what we're seeing here, because it's the Sun and the Queen of Wands, you really are, and here the Star and the Temperance, you really are on the right path. Like, I think Spirit wants you to know you're on the right path, but I think it's going to bring with it some shadow. It's going to bring with it some jealousy. There's going to be some issues with some of the people around you. I feel like you are really rising in some way, and that brings that sort of energy. So you need to be able to go within. And this is the Hermit. I think the Hermit will help you with that. The underworld doesn't have to be bad, but it is needing to look at the shadow to make a clear decision. And I think there will be some parting of the ways with some of the people around this, or some different sort of calibration of your ambition around about June. So let's see what the wild card is in this 3-month period. Star. Okay, so that's definitely saying light in the darkness, wisdom shining through ignorance. Whatever is going on, you'll be fine. You are following the right thing. Spirit wants you to know that, because it looks to me like there'll be a little bit of a crisis of confidence or faith in others, or backlash or jealousy going on in this period of time. But you absolutely are on the right path. Let's get you some astrology or numerology as well for this 3 months. Midheaven. I do think most of this is around career or, personal brand, creativity, something like that. This is not about relationship, but there's people around. There are definitely people around, and some of them will be right for you, but some of them won't, and some of it's going to be a bit bitter, and you will withdraw a bit. But you are on the right path, very much on the right path. Spirit wants you to know that. So from July, August, September, so through the 3rd quarter in 2023. So July, the Emperor reversed, the Ace of Cups reversed, August, the Moon, 7 of Cups, September, the Wheel of Fortune, the 3 of Coins. Okay. So, up until here, I felt like this is around career or creativity. These energies may be picking up a relationship as well. So there's one of two ways of reading this. I'm going to read it like it was a continuation of this story, and then I'm going to look at it as something else coming in the second half of the year. So if this is around your career, creativity, personal brand, who you are in the world, the midheaven, whatever you've decided in this contemplative time in the underworld, I think makes you leave a workplace, leave a power dynamic, and I think there is some disappointment. So it's possible for some of you, you make a commitment to working with someone on something, and you're on the right path for what you do, but it's the wrong person, and there becomes a lot of competition. So that is possible. If it's in a workplace, you may decide to leave a workplace with the Emperor reversed in July. And so in August, you're trying to work out what you can take forward yourself with the Moon. It's a little bit unclear about where the return on investment is now, if things have shifted. You still know on some level, particularly psychically, that you're on the right path, but it's a little bit harder to see with the light of the Moon than it was with the light of the star or the light of the sun. But it is saying that even if you have to do this, you are still going to have a good outcome. You're still going to manifest something out of this. And in fact, by September, you'll see whatever this shift was to have been good fortune, and you have better people to collaborate with. So certainly, if this is a continuation of this energy, you're shifting gears, shifting who you connect with. If it's a relationship coming in, I would be a little bit careful, pile 1, with the Emperor reversed and the Ace of Cups reversed. It could be that it's hard to work out whether this is something that could be long-term. It's not necessarily saying it can't be, but there's power issues to deal with here potentially. And it's hard to sort of see whether the heart is there. And then you move into, this is just unclear. Is this something that's a growing concern? And I think You may decide in the end, if this is about a relationship, that it's more of a friendship. It's a good connection, but it's more of a friendship. So it just depends. So if you're looking for love and something comes up around about July, then it may become more of a friend in the end. Or if it is fortunate and you do determine that it's going to last, there's a very material side to this, that you work together or something like that. So let's have a look, therefore. This is a bit of a sort of like, it's where there could be relationship energy of a different sort here. So let's just see what the alchemy energy is from July through to the end of September. Rotation with the spider, and also the concept of the spider on the wheel. And it's interesting because we've got the Wheel of Fortune here. This is about repeating things until you get things right. So if this is a continuation of this energy of working out who to work with, where the power and energy is, where the heart is in this, all of that kind of thing, then this is saying that the return on investment, when you're not sure, is just to keep doing and keep doing and keep doing until you find that the energy comes through, and that it will. So certainly, if you may separate out from certain people, as I say. This could be happening a little bit through the year, but you will, and you may have to come to terms with the kind of balance within yourself between the will to be the boss or lead something out and what is close to your heart. But this is saying it's the repetition. It's a very scientific feeling. You repeat the experiment, and things become clearer, and you start to see where the good fortune is going to come, and then you will see that you have a foundation. If it's around a relationship, this could be a repetition of a pattern. So what you've got to decide is it a pattern that you think you can turn to something that becomes stable, or is it a pattern that you should be letting go? Okay, so let's see the archetype energy around this. The Mother. Now that's interesting, given you had the Empress reversed up there. And it's interesting that we have the Emperor reversed here. I do feel for some of you, this may be a kind of disconnection from your parental sort of beliefs in well, not necessarily parental beliefs in you, but like almost like ancestral stuff, clearing some of that sort of energy, or becoming your own mother to yourself, nurturer to yourself, parent to yourself in some way. Or some of you could be wanting that yourself. Now, if this is picking up, maybe if you've been trying to sort of have a child and the sort of early stages, that hasn't worked, early stages in this is the time that it's going to happen. That repetition of good habits, good diet and so forth. And so there might be kind of a feeling of it's near, but hasn't quite happened until this point. And this could be clearing out your system to some degree, and you're on the right path. So certainly any of you who are wanting to sort of start a family or something, I think the most likely breakthrough is going to be between July and September. But otherwise, I think it's nurturing and mothering something in yourself. And maybe this repetition and this pattern to get you to connect to your North Star is to get you to do that. If there are difficulties with people, it may be precisely so that you don't go from one nurturing figure to another, that you become the nurturing figure to yourself, pile one. So let's see the wild card. Grieve. Allow yourself to grieve over your loss, a personal opportunity or a situation. So I think that there's something you leave behind. Now, whether it's right at the beginning and you've just been going full pelt at whatever you do and you didn't stop, this may be the point to stop, to take stock, to allow the emotion to come through so that you can then start to build the better energy coming through. It could also be that there has been something you've had to let go of that you had in your vision, but that wasn't going to work. So you do need to allow yourself to do that. And I think to go into the sort of energy of the moon, Spirit has said quite clearly you're on the right path, but there's some stuff that needs to be shifted out, I think. And this is probably also partly nurturing yourself in this space. So let's see the astrology or numerology as well. First house. Yeah, this is all about who you are. Who you are in the world, how you want to project yourself in the world. I think for some of you, you're going to realise that that you probably have been very much a nurturing figure for other people and done a lot for other people. Not everybody has returned that or something like that. I think this is you coming to terms with all of that and realizing in the repetition of things what you want to repeat, what patterns you want in your life, and how you want to portray yourself, and the stability with the 7 of coins and the 3 of coins that you want to portray yourself with. So it's a bit of a tricky quarter, I think, for you, but I think it's one that brings you to good fortune. But it's almost like you're having a aha moment about patterns and habits in your life. So then let's see how the year closes out, October, November, December. October, 9 of Wands, 4 of Swords. November, 2 of Coins, King of Coins. And December, 8 of Cups reversed, 9 of Coins. Okay, so certainly the promise of the Sun and the Queen of Wands at the beginning of the year that you are, and the Star and the Temperance here, that you are on the right path materially, career-wise, how you are in the world-wise, midheaven-wise, is going to have come to fruition by the end of the year. You seem to be in a very secure position materially by December. It does look though something about this particular quarter, I'm sorry to say, but I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's going to be tricky, I think. There's a kind of a real kind of like pattern you need to follow to sort of like come through and work out what's going to work for you. It's sort of, this is where the Hermit is given the spiritual thing. It feels like that sort of Confucian thing about before enlightenment chop wood, after enlightenment chop wood. It has that kind of feeling like you have to get into a pattern. There's a pattern and you're going to find something, but you're going to have to let go of certain supports or certain ideas that you had so that you can find the right pattern. And I think having gone through that, when we're in October, you sort of feel like, do I have enough energy to move on? And you want to withdraw. I think the Spirit is saying it's fine. Maybe take a holiday if you can in October. You need to kind of get your second wind. The 9 of Wands, I mean, it looks very, very sort of like troubled here in this particular representation. And there certainly is that sort of sense of exhaustion, having been through a lot, that 9 of Wands has. The 4 of Swords is often about, taking a bit of time out, healing and so forth. I think there's a period of like slowing down a bit and healing that's necessary in this time. But the promise of the 9 of Wands is always that you can get your second wind. And the promise of the 4 of Swords is that you can heal. So I think this is a positive thing, but I think it is just saying that this has been an interesting quarter. If you take that break and that rest in whatever way you can, by the time you get to November, you've got some really good choices that you can consolidate, really good opportunities, and you're feeling very secure within your choices. In fact, that you could sort of juggle things. If it's been around a relationship and you weren't really sure if it was going to last a distance or whatever, then if it has survived this quarter and this energy, it will be long term. But whatever happens, you will be in a position of a self-made person, but there's still something right at the end that Spirit's saying that is emotionally you don't want to let go of. So I think that's almost a challenge of this whole year for you, and we'll have a look at the oracle cards. But my feeling is that there's enormous potential here for you, particularly around who you are in the world, your career, your personal brand, your creativity, but also possibly around relationships, family, all of that sort of thing as well too. But there is a kind of sense that you can't carry everything with you. So it's a growing pains year in a way, if that makes sense. And again, I mean, you could be, as old as I am, and this could be a growing pains year. It's not about age or maturity. It's about a process to really get to what it is that you want to materialize in the world and where you want stability. So let's look at the alchemy for the last quarter. Breathe, breath. I'm actually thinking I should put this here because I think this is what Spirit wants you to do. Around October, to take stock, to let the breath, to let the sort of the magic of, the liminal come into the material, all of those sort of things. I think Spirit just wants you to be able to understand it's going to be all right, and you're actually going to feel very secure at the end of the year, though not entirely necessarily letting go of everything that you need to let go of emotionally, but you're going to be really feeling solid and stronger. But you need to have the breath. You need to connect to what is magical within you as well as what is magical around you. Let's see the archetype. The ocean. Wow, the vastness of the ocean. The interesting thing about this is this dissolves the ego, it dissolves all the things that can't work. It will help you around this Eight of Cups reversed if you're resisting this. But it's getting to the unconscious, and the breath also is a bridge to that. This is a very spiritual, the interesting thing to me is this is a very spiritual quarter for you. You're going to come to some really big spiritual aha moments, but they're going to materialize as well. So this is kind of like a spiritual pilgrimage year in a way, but the ultimate outcome with it is going to be about sort of some very strong material security. Let's see the wild card for you from October through to the end of December. Key. You are the key to your future, to your happiness. Unlock your mind, unlock your heart. Yeah, okay. So there's an understanding at this point. I think it's like there's a movement away from one thing, a harvest, to go into the new. I think there's something to do with other people, connections, what ones are working with you, what ones aren't, in whatever this is, family, love, career. I think many of you it is around career. There's almost the dark night of the soul in a way operating in this, but not in the traditional way, not necessarily in the kind of, oh, you're going to be depressed, but more in that you're going to start to really examine the patterns and what ones are bearing fruit for you. And then that takes you to a whole other spiritual level where you connect very much in. And this is why this month is very important. I think that's where you find the key, and then you manifest. You actually learn how to manifest. So let's get you some astrology for that quarter as well. 9, yeah, and something else completes. Yeah, there's definitely something about you guys, Pile 1. Well, I think that there are things like your career or something about you. There's sort of like you kind of join together with people, you do something, it comes to a harvest, you start again and so forth. And there's something in the pattern of that you can start to build and find more security in and more of who you are and more of your life path. But it does require you to work out what are the emotional costs of that and what works for you and how can you consolidate a sense of stability and growth for yourself, which is the promise right at the beginning. And that's a spiritual decision so that you are able to let go when you do need to let go. So it's a very interesting energy for you in 2023. I think it's very positive, but it's a little bit challenging. So just to finish off, I want to draw a card from the Fairy Blessings deck to get you a blessing for 2023. A blessing of stability. And you're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're starting off wondering what you need to negotiate and do to really bring your life path forward and what you maybe will have to lose. You're going to realize you're on the right path, but there is going to be some stuff probably around mid to sort of like 3/4 of the way through the year where you're going to have to refine everything and get into the patterns that work for you and let go. And then there's a spiritual awakening that allows you to complete what isn't working and bring in the stability that you want. So I think it, as I say, is ultimately a really good year, but it's a very learn of yourself type of year as well. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. As I say, this is in particular, this reading, because there's a lot about the crucial decisions that you make in the first half of the year. You may want to revisit this again in the second half of the year and see whether the energies are still the same. If you've shifted even further than all of this, it may be that one of the other readings actually then aligns more for you in the latter half of the year, but there's certainly a wonderful promise at the end of this year. So it's certainly not like, oh, this isn't a good year. I think it will be a very good year for you. But with that much said, I will wish you well and hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So we're going to start firstly with January, February, March and go each 3 months, each quarter in that sort of direction with a couple of cards for each to see what Spirit most wants to point out for each of the months and what the kind of narrative line for the year is as we go through. So we're going to go quarter by quarter and we'll use tarot and then we'll use some oracle in each quarter as we go through just to see how the year unfolds for you. So for January, February, March. January. 9 of coins, 7 of coins. Ooh. Off to a good start, Pile 2. February, 5 of coins reversed, 10 of cups. March, the Lovers. Oh, my goodness. Yes, you are off to a good start. And a Page of Wands reversed. Okay, So certainly in January, if you are looking at any kind of material things, becoming a self-made person, making money, building on investments, getting a great new career option, all of those sort of things, looking for a new job, starting a business, whatever it might be, excellent, excellent energy there. You do appear to be doing a lot on your own. Now, it's possible, particularly with this coming up later, that many of pile 2 have started the year single. But if that's the case, I think energy is coming in for a relationship. And what this would be saying to me is that you have positioned yourself very well to be independent and therefore to be in a relationship if you want to be in the relationship, not because you feel the need of a relationship. And there's certainly a sense here that things that you are putting in place in January are going to return on investment. You're going to see the harvest. It may take a little bit of time. The coins always go a little bit slow, and 7 of coins is a sense of growth and harvest coming over time. But certainly excellent on anything material, excellent on anything in terms of establishing yourself in the world. It would suggest you've done some really good work in 2022 about those sort of matters. And if you have done a lot on your own, it starts to shift as early as February and then definitely into March. Because we have the 5 of coins reverse, which tends to be not being alone. It tends to be coming out of that sort of period, certainly coming out of any financial restrictions, but it looks like that's already in hand in any case in January. This therefore makes me think with the 10 of Cups, really great sort of connections emotionally, potentially long-term connections or ones that have that possibility. If you are in a relationship and you've been spending a lot of time on your career, I feel in February there is some time to spend more time with your family. If you've been estranged from sort of more extended family, you have time to do that as well. Or if you are trying to bring in energy for a new love relationship, which I think could be in the cards literally for some of the people for pile 2, then you're drawing in kind of a manifestation way, something that could be very long term and very happy. So in March, if you are in a relationship, I think you focus a lot more on that because I think you become aware that maybe you've been thinking about material things in the long term and less about the passion. So you refocus to passion. If you meet someone and you're looking for someone, I think that there's a very strong attraction and you've almost manifested, brought this person in. But I think that for whatever reason, you don't instantly jump into the physical side of the relationship. It feels like that's a little bit... It either needs to be re-fired up in an existing relationship or it may not instantly jump to that. But there is a very sort of strong sort of sense of a potential new love or, as I say, a revival of a love. Could be the return of a love too. That's a possibility if you are sort of still thinking about an ex. Let's get some oracle cards to see a little bit more about this. I think very positive energy of bringing in sort of the security of self that allows you to properly explore what you would want to do in relationship. Let's see what alchemy energy is with you in January, February, March 2023. That's interesting. That came up for one of the others in another part. Breath. You're actually, there's something quite magical about you, I have to say. Because there is this sort of sense to me that like you've really worked out how to manifest things and therefore you're now turning your mind to manifesting love in some way. You can bring it in. Breath is all about getting in touch with the sort of unconscious and the spiritual side and connecting to the magical. So I think there is something quite magical for you in this first 3 months. I think very, very positive. I feel like saying, be careful what you wish for because you're going to get it. So just make sure it is really what you want. I think you're in a very solid sort of position. I think you're in a good position to manifest now, but I think there's a lot of magic within you. Let's see the archetype energy of the first 3 months for you, pile 2. That's interesting. That came up as well, the mother. So if any of you have had issues, as I said, estranged from your more extended family, I think there could be reconciliation, reconnection, all of those things. If you are looking to start a family, then this is you're very healthy, very able to do that, whether you are going to be the birthing parent or not. Very sort of strong on that sort of maternal energy. There is the sort of the capacity to do that. And it's almost like therefore a child that's waiting to be brought into the physical. So certainly if any of you are wanting to do that, there's a magical time for conceiving, I would say, in the first 3 months. And if you want to reconnect with family, as I say, on any level, then that's good as well. But otherwise, I think it's you nurturing. It feels very Empress-like to me, particularly with these coins to start with, this capacity for you to manifest and create what you want. Let's get you a wild card from the Cute and Creepy Oracle for this first 3 months. Intuition. Trust your inner feelings. You know the right answer. You're very magical. You're very magical people. Very magical. I sort of feel actually with this cups with the rainbow, I'm sort of thinking of the goddess Iris, inspiration, intuition, creativity, all of that kind of thing. As I say, you can really, what you think you can bring into being. Let's have a look at an astrology or numerology energy that's operating in this first 3 months. Oh, yeah, you are. 11. You're magical, all right. So there's something very, like, it's just saying it over and over. Highly spiritual, highly magical, and there's something, it's like what you are going to focus on, particularly your heart and the choices that you focus on it, because you've focused on material things and you've got yourself into a stable position. You're going to draw this energy in. So I say, be careful what you wish for. And I'm not saying that because I think anything bad's going to happen, but this sort of power is there. And so you have to be very conscious of it, I think. I think this is why breath is there. It's like getting in touch with the inner self and what would be nurturing to yourself and to others, because you definitely have the ability. So let's see, given that amazing start to the year, let's look at April, May, June for you. So April, 5 of Wands, 5 of Cups reversed. May, 7 of Wands reversed, Queen of Wands, and June, Judgment, 3 of Swords. Okay, all right. This might be why I kept saying be careful what you wish for. Might have been I had a sense of this. Look, you are very magical. Like any of this sort of stuff, even anything here that's challenging, you more than most, pile 2, can turn this around. And I think this is why we've got the Queen of Wands there, sort of showing up so much for April. You know, you really are strong in understanding who you are, but it's almost as though you're setting in train some things here. I do feel if this is a new relationship, there could be competition going on, and you may decide not to continue with it. You make a decision about whether you're going to continue with it. So if this is a new relationship, a new love relationship, why we've got the Page of Wands reversed there might be because there's sort of some energies of like competition, conflict, unresolved emotional stuff with this person. And I almost feel as though you kind of, they may be a little bit threatened by you. So you may make a judgment in the end that this to separate, or you may be waiting on their judgment to separate from someone else. So I do think if there's a relationship, it's a little bit complicated at first, but you stand very strong. You're very attractive. You draw them in, but it's like to the degree that you are, you kind of like make them feel nervous. Like this looks classically like someone who is drawing in an admirer, and you know that it's there, but they've got a lot of issues they're dealing with, and you can kind of empathically pick that up. And it's like, why don't they ask me out? It's because they're feeling a bit threatened. So there's sort of something, and you may decide to leave, or you might be waiting on a decision from them to leave. Now, if this isn't about a love relationship, then I think there's something in what you're bringing in materially that is going to bring a bit of conflict around others. And you may be almost a little bit worried about standing out from the crowd. So, you know, if it's in your family, you know, and you've got siblings, you might be worried about standing out from your siblings or friends and so forth. There's something where you're going to be starting to really work out, since you know you've made the choices now, what are the kind of opportunity costs, you know, sort of. So by April, you're kind of sorting through, it's low level stuff, but it's a bit emotional, it's a bit conflict based. There's something that you're dealing with there, and it really makes you vacillate between being very strong by May and feeling like you can't force things. It's sort of like you're vacillating. And then I think in June you make a decision, and there seems to be a separation associated with that decision. So it could just be a separation from some of the conflict and the people who are causing the conflict. It depends what it is. So let's see the alchemical energy for you. Because this is sort of like that first 3 months, you kind of hit the ground running and you're really drawing this stuff in. But I think it's almost as a backlash, you get the responses of other people. And there could well be jealous people and stuff around you with this sort of energy. They're not They're not as strong as you. You come out as very strong. They're more like this 5 energy, but it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't cause some stress for you. So let's see what the alchemy energy is for you. Summer. That came up for one of the other ones as well. So some of you may go to 2 or go to 2 as the year progresses. This is the energy of coming to a harvest. So the mother sort of energy, the 10 of cups. But it's also to allow in the new. So there is this sort of sense that when summer, what follows summer is autumn, and that's where certain things die away and leave. So there's something to allow the new in and to bring in your harvest. You may have to let something go. So whether it's a relationship, a friendship, a particular career option, whatever it might be, you really are manifesting. I mean, you're well positioned and you're going to get a really great outcome, but you're also going to have to then decide what you move forward with as a result of that. Let's see the archetype. Oh, this is where there's, and I do think that some of you are going to go to more than one, the underworld. So this is a period. This is a 3 months after this wonderful energy that you come in with. When you start to understand how magical you are, it's then like you have to look into your shadow, because you can't take all of it with you. I think this might be the thing. I think you realize this amazing sort of capacity, but then you realize that there are some opportunity costs or some conflicts or things you're going to have to deal with. And you vacillate, as I say, a bit here before you make the decision. So this is going within shadow work to really understand either what's coming towards you, because it could be a lot of kind of external, jealousy or conflict or whatever as a result of how brightly you're shining, or it could be you realizing that there are so many options, as I say, but not all of them are what you need to go forward with. Let's see the wild card. Reconnect with something or someone you have lost connection to. Okay, all right. This may put a different perspective on this. This may not be you leaving something behind. I think there is an energy of some things left behind, because that's what Summer would suggest. But there may also have been someone you've disconnected from, and you are making a decision now about whether or not you could move forward. If this has been a relationship and it's been on and off, you may reconnect at this point rather than separate. So that's an interesting wild card. Just when it looked like you could be moving away from everything, there may in fact be at least one person that you reconnect with once you've made the decision that judgment is calling you to make. Let's see the astrology. First quarter. So first quarter is first manifestation of new intentions. So I think you've come into this and you are starting to manifest it, but it is always a tricky stage when you're first starting to manifest something, because it is where you eventually have to harvest the low-hanging fruit almost, and then decide what you move forward with. And it can be where you start to kind of doubt yourself and so forth. There definitely also could be some sort of intention to reconnect to something. Certainly if any of this was about the sense that you could reconcile with family members or something like that, then it may well be that by June you really do actually do it. Okay, so let's see July, August, September. July, 7 of Cups reversed. The Tower, wow. August, 3 of Wands reversed. The High Priestess reversed. September, Knight of Cups reversed. King of Swords reversed. Okay, so I find it really interesting that July, as it happened, I felt to put the underworld there. This feels like you're coming to terms with what happened in the underworld, what you were deciding there. Because the 7 of Cups reversed to me is always becoming emotionally pragmatic. You kind of have a clarity on what you want, and there's a huge amount of change that comes as a result of this. I've got to say that for some of you, I think you might reconnect with an ex, or you may have a choice of partners, and you're going to, the clarity on what you want shifts everything. There's something really significant around that, I think, for you. And if it's not around a love relationship, then there's a sense of like, you know what, I've reconnected with what I need to reconnect with, but I do know that I have to leave a lot of stuff behind. I have to take all before me. Like I can't emotionally take it all with me. I have to make a major change. So there's a major change that comes off the back of this decision in June. In July, it's a major change, but you're very emotionally pragmatic about it. And it goes into August where you're going, I'm not even listening to my intuition. I'm making a decision about where I would want to put my passion and my creativity, because I don't feel that I'm on course with that. In fact, it feels like, so much is changing, maybe in your inner world or relationships, that you almost make a decision you're not going to go on any new adventures until you're through this. There's a lot of pragmatism around here and a lot of very material decisions. And that then leads to September, where I feel like if there's been an on-off thing around somebody, I really feel like you kind of aren't letting it go forward at this point. Or you feel like they're never going to do this, they're never going to make the offer. Because like with the King of Swords reverse, there's something going wrong with the mental connection and or the person's not being really honest with themselves or with you. And Knight of Cups reverse feels like the emotional offer is not there. So I've got to say, if some of you are reconnecting to someone because you don't want to close it out, I think in this 3 months you're going to close it out. If it's not a reconnection and there's someone who you've met but it kind of never is failed to ignite in some way, I think that by this period of time you're going no. And I think this is what I'm saying. It's like I feel right at the beginning like you had such a power to draw things in that it was almost like on this energy at the moment, and even hearing this reading could shift this energy, Pole 2, because you are so magical. But there's a sense that you almost kind of drew something in without thinking through all the implications of it. And I think by this period of time, you've become very pragmatic about that. You've kind of gone, now I understand why having this sort of magical power can be an issue. Now I'm going to be much more pragmatic about what I do, because it's almost like you draw someone in with the power of your manifestation and desire, but it's not the right person. So as a result, you can't really make it what you want it to be. So I do. That's why I was feeling that. That's why I kept saying, be careful what you wish for. So I do think this is one of those sort of readings where I think even hearing the reading will shift this significantly. So we're just going on the probabilities at the moment as though you almost hadn't heard the reading. But I think if you haven't already shifted that and then brought a different energy in, then I think this period of time is when you really do shift that out so that you can bring the right energy in, so you can recalibrate. So let's see the archetypal energy. The alchemical energy around you in what I think is a bit of a tricky quarter. Sap of the moon plant, yeah. So you're going to be torn, I think, Pole 2, because sap of the moon plant is all about getting into the sort of the kind of liminal spaces, dreams, a place of dreams, all of that kind of thing. So you're really going to be exploring that, I think, and coming to some conclusions. If some of this is around family, and as I say, for some of you it could be, I think in this 3 months there's some very big shifts on a kind of subconscious ancestral karma sort of energy. And that could be how that plays out, particularly the kind of connection to the underworld and then leading to the sap of the moon plant. But I think that like it's like your dream life is going to be incredibly rich and it's going to give you information. But on a day-to-day level, so much change is going on that you just go, no, you kind of almost push that to the side because you just go, I'm just going to be pragmatic. I want answers, I don't want all this emotional stuff because it's not clear. Let's see the archetype energy. The judge, yeah, I think you come into judgment about something. Now, if this is judging yourself, you might come to terms with, if you had all this magic to bring something in, but it's failed to ignite, you might actually have to start to judge yourself and work out whether it's you. Have you been blocking that? That's possible. So the King of Swords reversed and the judge here could be you judging yourself too harshly. But I think otherwise it's you make a judgment at this point. It's kind of, you feel connected to these people or this person, if it's a lover or whatever it is. And there is a very strong psychic sort of thing going on here, but it's like you get very much in your mind. You have to get in your mind to make a very pragmatic decision. Let's see the wild card. Seed. Plant seeds to grow your future. This may be saying there's a lot of change going on where I think you're clearing things out and where you're making decisions about whether connections are the right ones. But it's probably saying when you're judging that and you're doing that, probably there's something in your dream world that can actually, because you are very magical, that can show you what seeds are meant to grow. Because remember, right up here, one of your strengths coming in is that you had that sort of sense of independence and the capacity to grow things. It's like, I think something happens as a relationship or a series of relationships that, friendships and so forth, that take you a little bit off course, and you have to recalibrate in this period of time to get back to first principles. Let's see the energy astrologically or numerologically for you. Feminine. Okay, so there's something about creativity, going back to that mother energy, to receptivity. I think that this is like the divine feminine aspect of you picks up a lot intuitively. And I think in your day-to-day world, you're focusing much more on almost the divine masculine or the sort of like the mental plane and that sort of judge energy. But it's like getting those things into balance so you plant the right seeds for the future, because it's the same message. It's set up here. God, you're magical. You could really kind of bring anything into being. But it's like if you aren't really clear when you do that, then you have all this. And so this is your opportunity, even if it feels difficult, to actually recalibrate, because you can plant these amazing seeds for the future. So let's see October, November, December, coming off the back of that sort of interesting quarter. So October, King of Wands, King of Cups. Wow. November, Queen of Coins reversed, Knight of Coins reversed, and December, Six of Wands reversed, Ten of Swords reversed. Okay. There's a lot of people operating in this year, and I suppose it's true, we all have lots of people operating in our lives, but there's a particular thing about relationships, and I mean relationships for you in this year. And as I say, you start out really strong and independent, and I think you will ultimately be that all the way through. But part of you understanding your power is going to be starting to understand the impact it has on others. Having gone through this sort of period where I think you kind of move away from connections that aren't working, can't be clarified, aren't honest, aren't open, you do draw in energy. And this isn't about gender or what your preference is, but you do draw in passion and love. So that is coming. But I think it comes almost in a false form because you haven't really worked out what you wanted to bring in and you brought it in before you can think about it. Then you bring it in. So by the end of the year, you're bringing that in. And I think it's going to make you really think about the material implications, because you're starting off in this really strong material thing. And it looks as though there's something about love coming in around about October that makes you question your commitment to some of the material things that you're doing. And it's almost as though you think, well, if I follow the heart at this point, I may not fully get the outcome that I thought I was going to get or the recognition I was going to get. But on the other hand, some of the stress of the year is removed. And I think it also says that with the right connection, that there isn't the same stress around conflict and competition operating. But I do think it's going to make you question the material side of your life by November, because it comes in then. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting sort of energy for you. Let's have a look at the alchemy of this, because I think, and if you are in a happy relationship, then there's something about other relationships and a really good energy comes in. Really does, but it really makes you reconsider the kind of foundations of your material world. And I'm thinking they're more like career, how you make money, that kind of thing. And I think you're sort of thinking about how to take the drama out of that by the end of the year. Like this would be classically sort of something that you meet somebody at work actually, and you decide you can't stay in the workplace if you're going to have that relationship. But it doesn't have to be that, but that's a way those sort of cards could operate. So let's have a look at the alchemy of the last 3 months for you. Of 2023. Earth's heart. Okay, that's getting into the core. That's getting to the real heart. This is the thing. This is the journey for you, Pole 2, in 2023. You are magical, amazing people. But I think whether it's around love that you're trying to bring in, whether it's reconciliation with the family, whether it's some new creative thing, whether it's a career thing that you want to be more connected to the heart and more connected to others with, you kind of have a vision of it all and you bring it in, and then you realize it wasn't quite what you expected it to be, and you have this period of time of clearing it out, and then you bring in what you are meant to do. But it makes you really rethink almost the basis that you started from. And this gets you back to the true heart, the core of the earth. What is really motivating you, and what would really stability mean to you? What would something lasting mean to you? Okay, so let's get the archetype. The river, yeah, you're on the journey. This is where it writes itself. So as I say, this reading, probably more than most I could talk about, is that heeding what I was saying right at the beginning could shift this entire energy. But right now, the main energy for you is that you have this magical ability to manifest, but you don't. It's like, and I don't mean this in a negative sense, it's just to give you an analogy. It's like a child with, firecrackers. Like, you don't necessarily know how to use this to your best at this point. Enormous power, but, you could bring in something that you didn't want to bring in. And I think you just go, but in a weird way, it's not bad. It just allows you to get clearer about what you do want. And I think you're really on course by the end of the year, but then you're sort of going, that shifts who you want to be in the world. So let's get the wild card. Knowledge. Gain new information through study and learn. So yeah, there's sort of something. This is all about gaining of knowledge. This is all about the getting of wisdom. So say it's a maturation thing. It's a getting of wisdom. That's what's going on. So don't see this as a bad thing. And as I say, you could accelerate it all by rethinking this up here. But I almost feel for most of you, there's sort of like enough people around this that it may even be that it's best just to let it all play out, because it's going to come out fine in the end. I mean, you know better in your particular situation. Let's get an astrology energy for the end of the year as well. First house. Oh, that's interesting. That came up again for another one. So this is about you finding you, but it's played out in a relationship, in whether it's love, relationship, friendships, family, work, or some combination of all of them. It's played out in relationship, but it's you starting with a sense of you, and then you reconsidering the sense of you and what you would walk away from or let go of that was too dramatic, so that you really bring in the connections that you want. So overall, I think it's positive, but it's tricky. And it's tricky precisely because you're magical. So speaking of magic, what we wanted to end up with was just a blessing from the Fae. So it actually does have a very Fae-like energy to it. It's the things that we learn and the wisdom that we get through unexpected experiences. So let's just see the blessing for the year for you from the Fae. A blessing of the wild within. So that's the blessing you've had right from the beginning. This is your power and your capacity to create and draw in and be attractive and all of those sort of things. But you can attract that which is not right for you as well as what is right for you. I think too, I'm getting a sense of there's the colour connection, even the way that the cards look. I think there's someone you'll reconnect with that helps awaken that wildness within. Now, only you can decide in your particular circumstance whether that's someone then that you need to sort of keep in your life and disconnect from others, or whether it's almost to remind you of that so that you can then make the decisions that you need to make to bring in the right energy. So it'll differ from one to the other, but I feel a really strong connection between the blessing and this reconnect with something or someone you lost a connection to. There's something about that this year that's important as well. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So as I said in the introduction, I'm going to go month by month, quarter by quarter. So we'll start with the first quarter, January, February, March, then do April, May, June, and so forth. We're going to do 2 cards from the tarot for each month, just to see the key themes or energies the Spirit feels you most need to hear for 2023. Then as we do each quarter, we're also going to use some oracle cards for getting some further information on each 3-month period. So to start with, for pile 3 for January, February, March 2023. So January, The World. Strength. Wow, you're off to a good start, pile 3. February, the Hanged Man, Page of Cups, and March, 8 of Cups, 4 of Swords reversed. Okay, all right. So there's something that's completing, coming to a conclusion. Doesn't mean that something's leaving or whatever, but World always means a sort of completion of something. And I think with Strength there, it's something in January, right out from the bat. You're in a very strong position because of, I think, things that you've completed in 2022. Some of you may have completed qualifications or completed what you needed to get, a job opportunity this year or a promotion. You could have completed something creative that you're ready to bring out. But whatever the completion of a cycle has been for you, coming into this new year, you're in a very strong position. And I feel a lot of creative energy, I think partly because both these women have fiery red hair, so that sort of red sort of energy. And also I'm feeling the root chakra with that as well too, with red. So the sort of sense of the foundations of life. You're in a very strong position in January because of, I think, things that you have done and you've satisfactorily kind of completed or brought to at least the next stage or next level in January. So that's fantastic. Now, having done that, it may be that in February you almost kind of slow things down a bit with the Hanged Man so that you can work out what you want to do next emotionally. I feel like most of you have done a lot. You've done a lot on something. You've put your all into something. It's worked out really well. Or you're going to realise in January that it's worked out really well if it's hanging in the balance. And I think what it does is it takes you to a kind of spiritual level. You may think, have I put so much energy? With this here, you might think in February, did I put so much energy into this that I almost sacrificed some of what I wanted emotionally? That's a possibility. Or as I say, it just might be in February you take a bit of a breather. For some of you, it may be a time that you take a holiday. So, but it's like to recalibrate with that Page of Cups into what you want emotionally, almost making your emotional business plan, so to speak, from a position of strength and from what you've learnt in the preceding year, which allows you by March to let go of patterns emotionally that weren't working for you anymore. So if you've completed something but you felt it had some sort of cost or sacrifice emotionally, by March you're ready to move away from that you had to let go of. And you're also ready to sort of come back out into the world. So I do feel for many of you, February might be a time that you take a bit of time out. And if you don't literally do it by being on holidays, if that isn't a holiday period for you, then I think it might be that you take time out sort of emotionally to meditate and contemplate because you've done a lot of work. You put a lot of energy into something. But it has taken a little bit of an emotional toll. I don't think this is terribly bad. I think that you actually work out quite easily what to let go of and how to sort of come out of that contemplation. But I do think in February, March, there is that contemplation. So let's have a look at the alchemical energy around you from January through to March. Tin, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense actually. I'm going to put that here. Tin is it's one of the sort of materials in the alchemical laboratory. It is an amazing material because it can spread very far. This is why we see Jupiter there. It's incredibly sort of like you think of alfoil that you can wrap things up with, it can spread very far. But that is also its potential weakness of being spread too thin. So I think that you've achieved something. I think you've been a bit of a workaholic or really focused on something that you wanted to complete in 2022. I think in 2023, you're in a position of strength with that, but you're also aware that you could have spread yourself too thin. That's why you do this internal contemplation. It's exactly the right sort of energy and exactly the right sort of approach to take to tin coming up, because there's great benefits in this. It's shiny and bright and all of those sort of things, but as I say, it can spread too thin. Jupiter is interesting like that. It is a benefic planet, but it can mean too much of something. So I think this is you having the wisdom to recalibrate yourself emotionally. Let's see the archetype that you'll be manifesting in that first quarter, pile 3. Anima Mundi. My goodness. You are very spiritually connected, very spiritually connected. And you can see the connection of what you've been trying to do spiritually and your internal sort of emotional patterns to the greater material world. A lot of you, there's something very significant that you've achieved, like materially, I would say, or, you might have had an environmental cause or something like that, or you may have kind of achieved some sort of form of initiation, actually, with these sort of cards, and you're ready now to kind of move to the next level coming out of it. But the Anima Mundi is really getting the interconnectedness of everything. And it's interesting, these two together, because the interconnectedness of everything spreads you to everything. The tin spreads you maybe too far. So I think this is the thing that you've got to work out. There might be some of you, particularly with that sort of fiery energy, as I said, with those sort of two redhead women, where you're very charismatic. You draw a lot of people in. You draw in a lot. But then do you get spread too thin? I think there's some question you've got to work out about that in this first few months, pile 3. So let's see a wild card for you in this energy. Let go. Release negative feelings holding you back. Well, that's certainly here. I think it's also release anything that is spreading you too thin. I think there's a pretty clear message here for you in the first 3 months. Let's also get an astrology or numerological energy around the first 3 months for you, pile 3. Masculine. Okay. So this is all about action. It's really strong because I felt very strongly feminine, the world there and the strength card. So I think there's a balance of masculine and feminine energies for you. It's why you can kind of like connect to all things. But I think there is something about action. It's taking the action to do what you need to simplify things sort of emotionally. But you are a person of action. I think you're a bit of a workaholic, actually. And I do think that pays off for you, but it can spread you a bit too thin. So let's see what May, June, July looks like. So May, Knight of Coins reversed, Justice, okay. June, Knight of Wands, 10 of Wands. Oh, yes, you are a workaholic, I think. Oh, 3. July, 6 of Swords reversed, the Hermit reversed. Okay, all right. You're a person of action. You're a bit of a workaholic. I don't know how much of a workaholic. Each of you will be probably different, but I do think there's a lot. You put a lot of energy into your creativity, into your career, into your action, into all of that sort of stuff. So you've really done something fantastic, and you've reached a really big audience by the looks of things, or a really big sort of set of connections. But you do have to work out what you can carry forward, because you want to move. And by the time you get to March, April, May, you really want to kind of move forward. But there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work in something that you're going to do. You're inspired as hell by May, but there's a lot of work, and you need to be aware of that. So by March, April, you're kind of maybe disconnecting from that which is not something that you can commit to, because there's a contract or an opportunity coming. So whether this is like, you've graduated, you've worked out what you want to do, and suddenly you have this fantastic job offer and you kind of really want to get into it, but you kind of almost maybe overdo it a bit, or whether it's a creative project and you've kind of worked out what you do and don't want to commit to with that, so that you can actually sign a contract. And again, it's sort of like by the time you hit May, you're moving through fast. It's really fiery, very energetic, but it's tiring as hell. So just be aware that you could really overextend yourself, because it's part of your personality. And if you do that in March, April, May, in June, you may feel you've got a bit off course and you'll need to go back within. Because you're very of the action, you're very of the material world, but more in the creative way than like kind of the Pentacles way. It's more kind of creative action, energy, all of that kind of thing, connection, all of that stuff. So you sometimes get off course because you disconnect from your inner world. It's very much the action in the outer world. So I think that Spirit is sort of saying to you have to think about that, because there's some really great opportunities coming for you, and you richly deserve them. You're wildly talented and charismatic and all this sort of thing by the looks of things, but you could just really overextend yourself. You need to, and like feel by June, like, have I lost my direction? Like, what's the kind of point? What was I trying to get to? So let's have a look at the alchemical energy around you in this 3-month period. Sublimation. Okay, actually put this over here. Makes quite a bit of sense. It's all about ascension. And I think and And I'm meaning more in the material and creative world here, because I think you may be kind of not focusing as much on spiritual ascension, but you have that within you. But this is all about ascension. It's rising to the air. It's having the inspiration, justice here, like kind of the contracts, all of that kind of thing. You are meant to rise. You are going to rise in this first half of the year. There's no doubt about it. I think that the issue is whether you overwork yourself as a result. Let's have a look at the archetype there for if you are rising, spreading out, connecting and rising. I mean, wow. What's the archetype energy? The desert. Okay. So the desert, like this is where you might feel like you've lost your way, and like all that fiery energy, if it burn out, it could be a bit like being in the desert. It's like, where's the emotional sustenance? This is why this is important to remember what it is that you want emotionally, because I think you get excited and creative and energized, and you could like burn yourself out. Like you literally could, path 3, and you have so much potential. So the spirit isn't saying this to say it's going to happen. This is like a warning, like this is why you were meant to come to this. The desert, you could feel like the emotional sort of support is a mirage, for instance, but equally within that, there's enormous sort of potential. So it's like how you deal with that desert energy. How do you deal with that fiery energy? Very fiery person. You may well have fire very strongly in your chart, or there could be some very strong aspects from fire signs and so forth in your chart with, astrology that happens in the year, particularly in this 3 months. Let's get the wild card for you. Slow down. Don't rush things. Yeah. Because Knight of Wands and Knight of Swords, they tend to just like rush in and think about the consequences later. So yeah, it's like, don't overextend yourself. This is very much the message. And if you slow down, you'll reconnect to your inner self and your inner knowing. Let's see the astrology energy. Yod. Yeah, there's destiny around you. This is why you're going to rise. Like this is a big year for you, and there's destiny. There's a long way to go. That's why you don't want to get off course. But the orb will help you. This is like a finger of fate. It's 2 planets that kind of point towards another. So I'm just going to roll the astro dice, and we'll find out what the planets are. So the 2 planets that are kind of joining together to point you in the right direction so that you don't overextend yourself, pile 3. First planet is the South Node. So what you're moving away from. The second planet is the Sun. Okay, so this is about you moving away from one life path into a new life path. You've completed something, you are now moving into something new, and those 2 things, moving away from that which no longer serves to move towards your life path, is heading you towards the energy of the North Node, where you're meant to go. Okay, so all of this is meant to be you getting on the pathway to your destiny, and that's why you're going to rise. But there's some pattern, and this is you've brought in this kind of putting 1,000% into things all the time, which is very admirable, but it could burn you out. So it's understanding that pattern so that you can really follow your destiny. Okay, so let's see July, August, September. July. Page of Coins reversed, 9 of Coins, August, 7 of Coins, 5 of Coins reversed, wow. September, the Fool, the Lovers. Oh, okay, all right, okay. So, July, August is all around how you consolidate and manifest all of this. This is the Anna Mundi, bringing into being, manifesting it. So as long as you haven't burnt yourself out, pile 3, and I think, this has just been said to you so that you won't, so you understand this. By July, you see that you have the material stuff that you haven't fully kind of done the business plan for all that you would want to do with it, but you can see it. You can taste it. You can taste what this is going to be. And I think it's telling you ultimately that whatever this is, particularly if it's like a career move and you're in an organisation or something, it might be that you start to get a sense that one day you want to be your own boss. But you're not manifesting that yet. It's almost like there's a plan starting to form sort of behind the scenes. But you're feeling very strong. What you're working on so July, August is has real potential to return on investment. And if you felt alone or that you felt that there was financial limitations, they're leaving. You can really see. So if some of this was all about, doing 2 jobs because of the economy or because you felt you had to do it, just so that, you could have the lifestyle that you wanted, by the second half of the year, you've worked it out. You're actually really consolidating, which then allows you in September to start to think about the new horizons that you want to go to and possibly bring in significant connections. Now, it could be a love relationship, definitely. It could be saying in September that a new love is coming in. And if so, it's kind of good because you've got things consolidated, so maybe you can fit it in your busy schedule. But it could also be other types of relationships. It doesn't have to be love. It sort of depends whether you're looking for love at the moment. But there's certainly new connections and new pathways or whatever. Once you've got this is a pattern with you anyway, I think. You reached a conclusion, then you worked out what you wanted to do emotionally, and then you kind of almost overextend yourself, and then you bring it into sort of balance, and then you do the same thing. So there's a bit of a pattern that operates with you, I think. So, but there's new energy coming in by September. Let's have a look at the alchemy energy for this particular quarter. Pile 3. Separation. So this is about whatever isn't going to work, you leave behind. I think it's sort of coming, I feel like I want to put it there. I feel like you kind of consolidate, so then you separate out from anything that wasn't going to give you what you wanted. So, and it might be separating from certain people to bring in new people, or it might be separating from certain sort of business activities to really start something new. But there's a sort of a sense of you cut out what you need to cut out at that point. Archetypally, the ocean. Yeah, I think I'm feeling that there. This is the new realm coming in. This is the depths, getting in touch with your sort of soul again. This is your pattern, as I say, there's a pattern with you. This is coming out of that pattern, something that you did in 2022 that comes to fruition. You feel really strong, and then you go into your emotion. I think this is what happens. You go right into the depths to work it out, what you want to act on next, and then you kind of rush it all through, and you can overextend it sometimes, but if you don't rush things, you really are on the right path, so that's fine. And then you consolidate that, you bring it into being, you separate out that which isn't working anymore. It's almost like that clicks into an energy like that, so then you can start the new thing again. Very creative energy actually around you, whether you literally do something creative for your job or whether it's just your pattern. It has a kind of a rhythm to it. So let's see the wild card. Stand up for yourself, stand up to bullies. Okay, so some of you may find that there is some battle materially that you have to deal with in this period of time. If there are people, if you have worked out a better way to balance things so that you're not exhausted all the time, but you're getting like pressure, you may have to stand up so that you don't rush things potentially. This may also be you thinking eventually you want to work for yourself or something like that, or have your material be the boss so that you don't have to deal with that energy. Okay, and let's see the astrology energy in this 3-month period. Lunar eclipse. So there is a tension that you're going to deal with here. And this might be because out of like whatever you do emotionally, you always release something. And so there's a bit of a tension because this is almost letting your emotions be eclipsed. So maybe if you're feeling like you have to fight for something, then you can't get into this emotional thing. You're being stopped from getting into this emotional thing because other people are putting pressure on you. So it may be necessary not to have that pattern. It's a pattern that works for you, a separation out from those that are trying to make you do what they want rather than what you want, so you can get back into your emotional core. So there's a little bit of a challenge, I think, around that for you in those 3 months. So then let's see the last 3 months of the year. So October, November, December. October, Knight of Cups reversed. Sorry, I almost dropped something, so I struggled again. 9 of Swords, okay. November, 3 of Cups reversed. Wheel of Fortune reversed. December, 9 of Wands reversed. King of Cups reversed. Okay, all right. This is putting it, King of Coins reversed. This is putting an interesting complexion on what's probably going on here. So particularly with that stand up for yourself, stand up to bullies. I think that, as I say, very successful. You work out what you want to do. You work like crazy. I think many of you are in a very demanding environment, very demanding. And I think in this particular quarter, you start to work out what is going to work for you and what you would want to do. You don't manifest it yet, but you work out in the longer term, you want to sort of move on. You want to be your own boss, all that kind of thing. So in the last quarter of the year, you have some worries about the emotional fallout of the fact that, either you've stood up for yourself or that you're going to have to stand up for yourself. And you can see by November that there are some separations or some issues around friends and so forth. Maybe what feels a bit like a reversal of fortune, though the Wheel of Fortune is a bit of an ambivalent card. It's sort of, even when it's upright, it still could go, fortune can go down. When it's down, it could be that the only way is up. So if this energy is showing that coming off, whatever this is, where you have tried to separate out from being a workaholic in an environment, for instance, and now you're getting pushback from others and you're trying to reconnect to your heart, there may be a sort of sense here that you really realise in October and November what is not connecting for you, and where almost you've been a bit emotionally manipulated by the looks of things. So you get the aha moment. But you're still being careful what you say. I don't feel like at the end of this year that you've left where you are or you've moved away from these dynamics. I don't feel that this is about love. I feel like this is about work and energy and so forth. It just feels to me as though, or studying or something like that. And it feels to me like you really do have an idea. You're very, very talented and you work very, very hard and you're very, very creative. I think by the second half of the year, you start to realise the cost that has had for you, and that maybe it's been the environment that you're in that's done that. And it's made you suppress what your own potential is, but you know what your potential is now. I just don't think at the moment in this energy by the end of the year you'll necessarily have left, but I think you'll be thinking about how to leave. And you'll be starting to understand that maybe you've stayed in situations or done more than your fair share on things or whatever it might be, because other people have been able to emotionally, consciously or not, I'm not necessarily saying people around you are meant to be malefic, but consciously or not have kind of got you to do more than your fair share and made you feel guilty if you didn't. But at the end of the year, it's sort of, you're still in this environment. Until you're ready to be able to leave this environment, you've got to be a little bit careful about what you say and where you put your energy. So I think there's a kind of a overarching sense of this year of you starting to understand that you're like a powerhouse, and you're meant to be doing this for yourself, I think, because you're so creative and you're so energetic and you're so a person of action, and you do have a destiny, you literally do. But you're going to realise by the second half of the year how much other people have consciously or unconsciously fed off that. And I think near the end of the year, at this stage, you'll start to really consider that. Now, of course, having had this reading, you may even do that earlier, so that by the end of the year you may have moved on. But we're just looking at the energies right now. So let's see the alchemy around this. What I feel is that final aha moment of maybe what was the emotional underpinning that kind of other people around you that has caused you to kind of take on more than your fair share. Mercury, okay. Yeah, communication. Communication that is right and fair, communication that is trickster energy. The more that you communicate what you're really thinking, the more this is going to come up to the surface. Mercury is also like a messenger. Like, I think you will get messages spiritually and so forth. But there is mercurial energy. It's volatile. There's a volatility in this last 3 months. When you really start to understand, I think that you're a powerhouse and you're meant to be your own powerhouse, not the powerhouse for everybody else. Let's see the archetype energy for you. The forest, yeah. You're really starting to understand the environment you're in. You're in a complex environment. You're the sort of creative genius, workaholic, dedicated person that everybody wants in that environment with them. You'd be the person they'd want to lead through the forest, all of that kind of stuff. But I think you're really going to start to see the toll it's taking on you. Let's see the wild card for you. Escape limitations you have set for yourself. Yeah, you're going to be thinking about the exit lounge of something. And I don't feel like this is about a love relationship. I mean, if you do feel this all relates to a love relationship, then fine. But I think for most, this is more around career, study, group stuff, political or social causes, whatever it is that you're really dedicated to and you put a hell of a lot of effort into, but other people probably not as much. So the astrological energy, as you really start to move towards understanding your environment and knowing you're going to need to move on, say in 2024, Jupiter. We go right back to the expansion. But I think this is the thing, you know, the tin here, it's like you spread too thin, but maybe you don't fully realize what that means. By the end of the year, you do realize what it means. And you also realize that you can make your own luck. I think Jupiter then really starts to work very, very well for you. So I think that this journey is not, it's not going to be bad, but I think it's going to be a journey of a revelation to you about how much you have to offer and how much you could do with the right people, the people who actually work with you and collaborate and put as much energy in, because I think at the moment you're doing more than your fair share. Okay, so to finish off this review of 2023, I just want to get you a blessing from the Fae, because I thought a blessing would be a nice way to end up, you know, looking at a month-by-month review for 2023. So your blessing for 2023 is a blessing of time. Yeah, time out, time to think about things, time to make your own decisions, time not to be constantly on the treadmill of all of this sort of stuff. And I think also your time is coming. I think this year is you actually understanding the only thing that blocks that really is you by doing too much for other people. So I think this is the journey of Jupiter. I think Jupiter in your chart would be very interesting this year where it's transiting. If you do know your chart, do pay attention to that, because I think where you start, which is very positive and comes off, you know, and it's successful, where you end is when you really understand what you're capable of and what expansion truly means. So I hope that this message sort of helps you, because I feel like you just put a lot into things and you deserve to get a lot out of it, Pile 3. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.